My name is Madeline Albright. This is my ETE 232 midterm, and welcome to my chaise lounge corner. So today we're going to go over the difference between accommodation and modification for 504s and IEPs, and then go over some examples and kind of differentiate between them, okay? So, first things first, accommodation versus modification. Upon first glance, they kind of sound like the same thing, but they're not. In layman's terms, in the way that I kind of understand it, accommodation is just a way to help a student in different diverse ways, whereas a modification is where you do the same, but in order to do so, you change the curriculum and you alter your lesson plan for that student. And accommodation doesn't really do that. They're going to have the same curriculum, the same lesson plan, but they can do it in different ways. Okay, if that makes any sense of how I explain that. But these examples we're gonna go over will help with my explanation. Okay, so in this first scenario, Danica has an SLD, struggles with writing. Okay, so the teacher highlights key information in the research materials that Danica collects. That's an accommodation. That is not changing anything. Danica is still getting the same materials that the rest of the students are getting, but the teacher is accommodating her by just highlighting key things within that material that the students are collecting. So she's not modifying the lesson, she's not doing anything differently in the what she is teaching. The what she is teaching is still staying the same. The how she's teaching it is still staying the same. We're just kind of giving her, the student, an extra boost to help with her SLD and highlighting those specific words, those key aspects. So it's the same paper that all the other students are getting, but we're accommodating Danica and highlighting some of the words. The teacher shortens the writing assignment to one paragraph containing 3 facts instead of a 5-paragraph essay with a minimum of 3 sources. That is a modification, because now the student, Danica, is not doing the same thing that the rest of the students are doing. And the previous one, where we were accommodating her, she was getting the same exact materials as the other students, just with some highlight on it. Now we're completely changing the curriculum, changing the lesson plan, altering the work for this student. So that is a modification. We are changing the assignment. Instead of a 5-paragraph essay, it's a 1-paragraph response, and she doesn't have to have sources, just has to have some facts in it. Okay, so that's completely different than the original assignment. Is it about the same thing? Yes, it's both of them, as it says in the scenario, they're both researching the planet. Both assignments have the same goal, but they're not the same assignment. And so changing an assignment using an alternate assignment completely is a modification. Scenario 2. Brody, a 6th grade student with ADHD, difficulty organizing their time. The social studies teacher assigns a long-term project. Okay. So in the first scenario, the teacher breaks the assignment into smaller pieces or chunks, the materials. So example, week 1, visit the local library. Weeks 2 and 3, interview people. And it says in the scenario that the rest of the class is doing that same thing. They have to do the same exact thing. They also have to visit the local library and complete that demographic sheet. They also have to interview those 3 people. So this is an accommodation, because all the teacher is doing is giving the student different due dates. She's not changing the assignment or anything like that. It is the same assignment, but instead of giving the student free range of when to do the work, because the student has a hard time with that, the rest of the students have the same exact assignment but no due dates except for the final one, because they have an easier time managing their time, so they can do the project at their own pace and just do it throughout the semester, throughout the year, or all at once at the end if they can do that. But they can do their assignment on their own time. This student, Brody, has a hard time with managing his time like that, so we're just giving him due dates. That's an accommodation. We're not changing what the student is learning. We're not changing the assignment. The only thing we're changing, we're not even changing anything, we're just adding. That's kind of the big difference. Also, the kind of a shortcut to thinking about the difference between accommodation and modification. Accommodations, we're not changing anything, we're just adding. We're just adding something. Whereas in modifications, usually we're changing something or taking away something. Okay? Second Brody scenario. The teacher allows Brody to complete a series of worksheets on the history of the town instead of the project. That is a modification because, as we've said before, we're changing the assignment. The assignment is completely different. Every other student is doing this long-term project, but the student, Brody, gets to do something else instead, a series of worksheets. That's a modification because we're taking something away and we're changing something. So we're taking away the project, we're changing the project, we're taking away responsibilities, kind of stuff like that. Not really responsibilities, but we're taking away things and changing things so that the student can handle it in a better way. And that is modifying. We're modifying the project for him. We're not adding things to accommodate him, we're modifying the entirety of the project. Scenario 3, Aaliyah, a middle school student with muscular dystrophy, often experiences physical fatigue. So scenario 1, the teacher provides access to online textbooks. Accommodation. We're not changing the lesson, we're not changing the curriculum, we're just offering something else. We're adding something to her learning. We're adding something. She now has access to online textbooks. We're just adding something. Accommodation. The teachers assign a different assignment that does not require the textbooks. The teachers assign a different assignment. That is a modification. So, because we're not just adding something, we're changing and we're taking away. We're taking away the original assignment and we're doing a different one. And it does not require the textbooks. So every other student has to do the other original assignment, but Aaliyah does not. So we're to modification. The third one for Aaliyah, the teacher allows Aaliyah to keep a set of textbooks at home. Accommodation. It's the same situation as the online textbooks. We're just adding something. So we're not changing the curriculum, we're not changing what she's learning, we're not changing how she's learning it. And to a big degree, we are just giving her textbooks at home. Not every student has that. We're accommodating Aaliyah. She needs those textbooks at home. She can't carry those heavy textbooks, as it says in the scenario. So the online textbooks, we're having a set of textbooks at home so she does not have to carry those textbooks. That's just an accommodation. That's not modifying anything. Alright, and the last scenario, Ahmed, a high school student with an intellectual disability, reads at a second grade level. Because Ahmed has difficulty with decoding words, reading fluently during class is virtually impossible, especially for grade level text. Alright, example 1, the teacher gives Ahmed a lower level reader that provides fewer facts and details, but aligns with the grade level content. This one's a little bit of a tricky one, so let's see. It gives him a lower level reader that provides fewer facts and details, but aligns with the grade level content. In my mind, this would be a modification. It kind of sounds like an accommodation because we're giving him something to aid him, but we're changing it. So a lower level reader. So that would be like if the whole class is reading of Mice and Men, but Ahmed's getting a book of a completely different book that would still learn the same morals or whatever that we're trying to learn from Of Mice and Men, but it's at his reading level. But we're changing the book, we're changing what he's reading. It's not just giving him Of Mice and Men and highlighting parts, sectioning off parts, stuff like that. It's completely changing what he is reading. So that is a modification. Second one, the teacher allows Ahmed to use text-to-speech software for grade level materials, which allows the text to be read to him. That's an accommodation. So for grade level materials, which allows the text to be read to him. So it's the same text that everyone else in the class is reading, but he's allowed to use a text-to-speech software. So that's just an accommodation. We're adding something to him. We're giving him something that he can use to help him, to aid him. We're not changing anything. The only thing we're changing is that he's hearing it, not reading it. It's the same exact words. It's the same exact material that the rest of the class is using. So that's an accommodation. And then the last one, the teacher provides Ahmed with an alternative assignment after mastery of second grade words he successfully decoded. So this one's a little tricky, and I'm going to go that this is accommodation, which you might be like, Madeline, isn't that modification? Because he's being given an alternate assignment. Yes, but the key phrase in this question is after mastery. So when it comes to modifications, we are modifying their lessons, modifying their learning so that they can learn the material in the first place. But once the student has already learned what they need to learn, they don't need to modify anything because they've learned it. After mastery, this Ahmed has already mastered these words. He doesn't need any help learning them because he's mastered them. So the teacher is just providing an alternate assignment after the mastery, so kind of help aid further comprehension or just practice. So that's just an accommodation. That's kind of just a review. Pretty much what this question is saying is teacher's giving Ahmed a review after he's good to go. He's got it. He's learned it. All the previous accommodations and modifications have worked, and he has learned what he needs to learn. So now we're just kind of doing a review. This is what the alternate assignment most likely is. So it's an accommodation because we're not changing what he's learning because he's already learned it. So we're not changing any of the curriculum. We're just adding a little something, like an accommodation. So that is my midterm, my discussion of the difference between accommodation and modifications and of the examples. I just thought that for obvious reasons, this is now at 13 minutes, that this would be a better way for me to do it, just talking, because I knew while looking at this assignment that writing it into words would be difficult because there's just a lot you need to say and a lot you need to kind of describe and work through, and it's easier for me personally to just lay it all out there. And also I don't think a poster or an artwork or a song or anything else like that could really get into the basics that need to be discussed for this assignment. So nice little discussion. So thank you for coming to my chaise lounge corner, and thank you for listening to my midterm.